Good morning, YouTube. In today's video, we're going to be talking about time under tension and why I kind of think that the concept of time under tension is bullshit. I'm not saying that it's not important. I'm not saying that it's not completely unnecessary, but why out of everything that you could do in the gym, everything that you could possibly focus on in the gym, that is what you choose. You're telling me that you see people lift these heavy ass weights. You see people, whether that be on a machine or on a bar, like you see someone do a heavy ass deadlift, a heavy ass leg press, a heavy ass curl, some chin ups with some weight around their waist, and you think to yourself, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna go over to that preacher bench or that cable preacher curl. I'm going to curl. I'm going to bring it down slowly. And that's what excites you. That's what tickles your fancy when you go into the gym. We're going to be discussing that today. If that's a topic that interests you, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing to the channel. If you'd like to work with me as a coach or would like to support the channel by buying merch, that is available in the description below. So let's get into the video. So this is kind of like a weird kind of outgrowth or a result of people wanting to literally optimize everything. You want to optimize your training split. You want to optimize like whatever, like you want to optimize your pumps. You want to optimize like how much soreness, like how much you feel the muscle. And whenever I hear these things, I'm just thinking to myself like, Jesus Christ, like I mentioned earlier, that's what you focus on. That's what excites you about going to the gym.
Here's what I found.
Huh, my Apple Watch has found Jesus. Good for her. Anyway, that's what you focus on, really. And that's what excites you about training. I could never personally understand it. I could never personally get behind it. And here's why. Oftentimes, you'll hear certain terms like time under tension being the example for today, and you will get, and that for whatever reason will start to frame the way you start to think. But here's the thing. I want you to kind of develop an inquisitive mind. It's going to annoy some people, it's going to annoy yourself. But I want you to ask questions. And the first question that I had when I heard why time under tension is important is, what about just tension? What about just getting fucking stronger? Why is that something that we have to? Why is that something we need to always go back to? Why does that seem to be the thing that we always forget? This is something that I talk about when I'm training my clients in person. I'll make an adjustment to their form, and I'll have to remind, and if they're new especially, I'll make an adjustment to their form, and I'll say, hey, when you make an adjustment to your form, you're adding something, not changing everything else. So let's say, for example, I just want them to put their weight a little bit more to their heels, and for whatever reason, their arms like kind of bend. They're no longer, their arms aren't just not locked out, but like you know, they're not straight anymore for whatever reason. To kind of put their weight into their heels, their arms bend when they're deadlifting. Or if I tell them to bring the bar down right here onto their chest, they kind of forget that they need to tuck the elbows in, and they for whatever reason flare it out while trying to bring it down. And I'm just like, okay. This is why I think when it comes to like working out, getting more knowledgeable about training, more interested and more passionate about training, that you often lose sight of what really matters. You hear time under tension and you think that's what matters, when really what matters is tension. If you look at time under tension as an equation, right? So time times tension. That means that there's two variables that you can increase to equate to what is possibly just gains, right? This is just a example off the top of my head. But if you think to yourself, if I increase the time under tension, I'm going to get better gains. You can also then think to yourself, if I increase the tension, even if time stays the same, I'm going to get better results than if it was like lower, right? So that's what you should be focusing on. There are so many buzzwords in fitness, and I'm going to try to find more of them, because all of these things just distract you. If you try to manipulate time under tension and increase time, tension naturally has to decrease. Now, this is a good way of getting more out of less weight, but in circumstances where lifting the most amount of weight is the most appropriate, lift the most amount of weight. If you are, so let's say going to like the structure of my workouts, right? The way I structure my workouts is strength work, supplementary work, which builds up the strength work, or the strength work obviously to get stronger in a certain movement, or to target a muscle group with the most amount of tension you could possibly present it. And then the supplementary work is kind of a exercise that helps build that up, or similarly fatigues and stimulates that same muscle group. And then accessory work, right? So here's the thing: if you really tire yourself out on the main strength work, yeah, do something where you kind of have a little bit more control with the weight. So for example, with my deadlift, right, my conventional deadlift, I'm trying to lift that thing as explosively and with as much strength and power as I possibly can. I'm not going to think to myself, oh, I want to get more out of my deadlift, so I'm going to like just do it a bit slower. That doesn't, that if I say it out that way, it doesn't make sense at all. If I wanted to slow down the speed of my deadlift, I would have to use a lighter weight. I would have to do something like maybe a pause deadlift, or like maybe a stiff leg deadlift with a focus on the eccentric. But here's the thing: that works better as a supplementary movement where the main focus is not just your strength. And the issue with time under tension is that people will hear that and apply time under tension to everything in the program. So where you're trying to be lifting the most amount of weight, you want to implement time under tension. Where you want to be training close to failure, you want to artificially go to failure because you're using time under tension methods. You are training really submaximally for what you can lift, but you're using that. So usually what I would like to do with time under tension, to give it some amount of validity, to give it some amount of usefulness, is maybe as a method at the end. So like like for your last set of curls or something like that, right? I think that's an appropriate place to put it. But here's the thing: if you hear time under tension and are tempted to put it into every other set, into your strength work, your supplementary work, and for a majority of your accessory work, you are missing the point. When it comes to going to the gym, when it comes to getting stronger, when it comes to building muscle, what matters most is progressively increasing the amount of tension you are under. And that doesn't just mean time. There are other ways to manipulate time under tension. If you do more reps, the length of your set is now longer. You are now like increasing time under tension. So let's say you do 8 reps with 100 pounds, but you do a 3-second eccentric or something of that nature, or a 3-second contraction, right? Let's say you do 8 reps with 120 pounds, and maybe it's just 1 to 2 seconds for each one, right? Now, obviously, I'm trying to make the argument that here, the form is still good. Like, you're not jackhammering the weights, you're not being a jackass in the gym or nothing like that. But who's going to get better results? Or who has better results? Who has a bigger back in that scenario? You're not going to think to yourself, oh my God, Chris Bumstead got his back because he lifted his weights very slowly. If and like that is a extreme point, that is an extreme argument, but here's the thing: oftentimes what people are going to make as a rebuttal is the point that, well, you need to control the weights, you need to have good technique. And yes, that's true, but at the same time, is a 10-second contraction, is a 10-second movement, a 5-second even, a feature of good form? I would argue it's not. Obviously, like even when it comes to my clients and when I coach them, and let's say they are, like, let's say they're doing overhead press and the weight just flops down and it bounces right back up. I'm going to tell them, hey, have a little bit more control. But I'm not gonna I never tell them like do tempo work. I never tell them to do like time and attention type stuff. I never tell them that. I just say control the weight. Control the weight, have good form. That's very different from this time under tension. Time under tension is basically taking that idea of um controlling the weight and thinking to yourself, how do I control it even more? And that does not make any type of sense whatsoever. So, when it comes to overcoming this issue of becoming distracted by these buzzwords, focus on what matters. Remember what matters. Are you getting stronger? Are you making progress? Progressive overload is what matters, right? Everything else is just a mechanism we use to kind of accomplish that. But the thing is, we always like to think to ourselves, if we follow a specific type of method, progressive overload is going to be a matter of course. And maybe to an extent that's right, but here's the thing: is that really what you're going to kind of bet on? I would rather have you think to yourself or reflect to yourself, am I making progress? Am I able to see that this amount of work, this style of training is causing me to make progress? And if that is the case, continue with it. If that is not the case, don't continue with it. I know that sounds very simple, but bring it back to that. Bring it back to that simple amount of training. Don't think to yourself that you need to follow these arbitrary principles set out by these new style YouTubers, thinking to yourself that that's what's going to create gains. We know what works. The meatheads got it right. The big dudes in the gym got it right. Whether or not they are enhanced or whatever, the good pieces of information reveal themselves by how effective they were. Oftentimes, what ends up happening is that people who have great physiques will start spouting this nonsense about what built them the muscle, but that's not what they did to build their physique. Look at what they did to build their physique and not what they said, right? So that's it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. If you would like to work with me as a coach for strength or muscle, the link is in the description. Or if you would like to support the channel by buying merch, that is available on my website as well. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.